Hello guys. The contribution of ancient Greece to the formation of the European cultural identity is huge. Democracy, politics, philosophy, philanthropy, dialogue are words of Greek origin that express very high concepts which underpin the basic values of the European civilization. The remarkable Greek inheritance is to be found in European languages, in literature, in science, mathematics, art, architecture, theater, history, medicine, and so on. The first people to adopt this substantial inheritance were the Romans when, with the conquest of the Mediterranean Sea, they came across a civilization much more advanced than theirs, which established close contacts with. The meeting between the two civilizations was fruitful, and the Romans, initially, were dependent on the Greek culture to the point that Horace, a Roman poet of the 1st century before Christ, had to declare Grecia capta ferum victorem cepit et artes intulit agresti Lazio, which means that the conquered Greece conquered in its turn the still uncultured winner and introduced the arts in the peasant rural Lazio, recognizing the superiority of the Greeks.
So the Romans can be considered as mediators of Greek culture?
Of course, Simona. A direct link has joined Greece to Rome, so that later it has been called the classical world as a whole, referring to both the Greek and Roman culture. Hellas, however, will always be a myth. Their classical civilization was considered an ideal model of perfection to aspire to, and Greece will always be called the cradle of our civilization. Okay, this is just an introduction to your personal research on the current European values that originated in Greece. Well, get to work.
Hello guys, pretty hard work but very interesting.
It's true, but I have found a lot of news. The starting point, in my opinion, is the dialogue.
You're right. The dialogue was a widespread practice in ancient Greece, favored by the particular social form of the community, the polis, and the existence of places of exchange such as the square, the agora, academies, lyceum, symposia, and so on.
Yeah, it's true. Socrates, one of the greatest Greek philosophers of the 5th century, grounded his method in the dialogue. He used to discuss with his disciples and, encouraging them with many questions, made their truth be born. Just like a midwife helps the mother to give birth to her baby. And this is called the art of maietics. I mean midwifery.
So philosophy is nothing but love for knowledge.
Certainly. Philosophy was the basis of all sciences. Greek culture lived in the constant comparison between different ideas, between the new and the old.
Oh, it's true. The road that leads to knowledge gets through the dialogue with those who have different ideas and through the critique of truth inherited from the past. This attitude gave birth to the love for the political debate and democracy, that were manifested in the active participation of citizens in public life and equality before the law. But what was meant then for democracy?
The word democracy, which means government by the people, was used to describe the Athenian political system. All decisions were made by a vote by show of hands of hundreds or even thousands of people.
Is it true that in the age of Pericles you could accede to the highest political office in the city by lot?
Certainly, and the poor citizens, drawn to participate in political life and sit in the courts, were paid so they didn't have to worry too much about earning their living.
Extraordinary, a democratic government similar to our parliamentary systems.
Yes, but it was not a full democracy because many citizens, including women, slaves and foreigners, were excluded from voting. It was not all gold that glittered in Athens. The playwright Aristophanes knew this when in works, one of his plays of 422 BC, mercilessly satirized the defects of the Athenian democracy.
And satire is a great critic tool. It highlights the often uncomfortable truths that you don't want or cannot confess. The satires have to build public opinion that has great importance for the proper functioning of democracy.
Speaking about satire, I think of theater, which is a literary genre invented by the Greeks.
Public performances were held on the occasion of religious feasts. Besides entertaining the public, they offered food for thought. The play highlighted custom and behavior of men, bringing out even moral messages.
For example, you cannot forget Menander, a playwright who lived between the 4th and the 3rd century before Christ, whose philanthropy, that is the benevolent disposition towards others, is a principle that will emerge later in Christianity and become a value of Western humanism. In the place of Menander, the difficulties of daily life are overcome and conflicts are ironed out when everyone is willing to admit their wrongs and to show leniency towards the weaknesses and faults of others.
A nice lesson to be learned, but what about slavery?
In the words of Aristotle, the most influential philosopher of the 1st century BC, men are born masters or slaves, even if, in reality, they are all equal.
Oh, I understand. This is a philosophical concept. It's no joke. The free Greeks knew well what it meant to lose freedom. He enslaved and performed all the more difficult and humble tasks. The word eleutheria, freedom, already appears in Homer's Iliad when a great Hector fears for the destiny of Andromache, that would become a slave of the Achaeans if the Trojans had lost the war.
When we talk about theater in Greece, we also talk about tragedy in its greatest exponents, Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides. The tragedy had an educational and pedagogical function. Great moral, political and religious themes were discussed and debated in the proposed reflection throughout the events of the myth. Basic problems of human existence, background of human existence, especially those born from the experience of pain.
My teacher of Latin says that the Greek comedy and tragedy are among the most important treasures of literature of all time, constantly read, imitated and represented up to now.
Don't forget that Homer was Greek too, and is considered the father of Western textuality, thanks to his two poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey.
We have read at school a few episodes of the poems and we have discussed the values and feelings expressed in them. We understand Achilles' hunger, his tremendous grief over the death of his friend Patroclus, the sense of honor in the words of Hector that decides to face Achilles. Then there is Andromache's femininity that would prevent her husband from fighting to save him from death, the poignant dialogue between Achilles and his mother Thetis, the emotion to tears that Achilles says in front of the old Priam, begging him to return Hector's molten remains to give them a decent burial. In Greece there was great respect for the elderly people.
You have read and spoken about the Iliad. And what about Odysseus, Ulysses? He is different from Achilles. He is a patient man, accepts the limits imposed on him, but he does not stop to pursue his objectives. His mind is lively, he is driven by the desire for knowledge, curiosity for all aspects of life. He is a smart man, but also worldly wise. He is a man who builds his life wisely and with his hands.
He is in fact a modern man, a man who wisely and hardly working builds his progress. In addition, it seems to me that, as a good Greek, he recognizes the sacredness of hospitality. He has good relationship with the beautiful women. He is on a friendly footing with the beautiful women, but the feeling towards his wife is exclusive.
Let's talk about Penelope, who is the emblem of our project. She is the one that we have drawn in its logo. She represented an heroine, a courageous woman, one who has been able to cope with so many men, the suitors, and was able to defend her choices. She was a patient woman who lived a patient waiting, weaving. It is not true that the patient is a virtue of the women.
Here is the feminist who is speaking. However, if I had to choose between the two heroes, two models of behavior, I would choose Odysseus, because I do not understand the fierce wrath of Achilles and the war as a fundamental value of civilization.
You are right, but the war is unfortunately even today in many countries around the world. And I must point out that the Iliad, although a monument to war, it seems that the true aspiration of Homer was peace. The meeting between Priam and Achilles is sublime and moving, soothes the mind of the reader that, after so much blood and violence, can see again the values of humanity, respect and compassion, and finds the theme of reconciliation between the conflicting parts.
Let's not forget that when the Olympics were held in Greece, wars were suspended. Sport unites, and we've seen this last month at the London Olympic Games.
This seems to be almost simple, natural, yet it is not so easy to reach when the selfishness of individuals and the nations prevail.
If the words are really important, if logos is word, but also reason, as the Greek teach, and if the word is the hallmark of the human family, we must set our mind on those goals we have just spoken about. Objectives that the European Union has put in its treaty, established in 2004, by the comparison and discussion of representatives of various nations. It is the Charter of the Rights of all the European citizens, signed by the European member states. At the base of it, there are so many shared values that the countries of the Union undertake to respect and to promote. We speak of respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law and respect for the human rights, including rights of people belonging to a minority. These must be the common values in a society which is characterized by pluralism, non-discrimination, tolerance, justice, solidarity, and equality between men and women. These are the values that we find in the Italian Constitution as well. It was born in 1948, after almost 20 years of fascist dictatorship. Here are some of the most important articles which show how these values have become an integral part of every Italian citizen who cares about the welfare of the community. The first article states that Italy is a democratic republic founded on work. Sovereignty belongs to the people and is exercised by the people in the forms and within the limits of the Constitution. Our democracy can be representative or direct. It's representative when Italian people vote for their representatives in Parliament, in regional, provincial or municipal council. It is direct when people vote for a referendum or introduce a popular bill that Parliament takes into consideration. Article number 3 is very important because it deals with equal social dignity without any distinction of sex, race, language, religion, political opinion, personal and social conditions. Then there's article number 11, which underlines the fact that Italy rejects war as an instrument of aggression against the freedom of other peoples, and Italy promotes and encourages international organizations having peace and justice as important ends. Article 17 states that the Italian citizens have the right to assemble peacefully and unarmed, even in places open to the public, while Article 18 gives citizens the right to form associations freely. And in Italy there are several associations which work as volunteers to improve the conditions of those who need help, who need cures, and so on. Article 19 states that each person has the right to profess freely his own religious faith in any form, to disseminate it, and to worship in private or public. And Article number 21 emphasizes the concept of free thinking through press and media freedom. And finally, Article 34 says that school is a right for everyone, from the primary to the university. The civilization of a people is based on the culture of its citizens. School provides the critical ability to judge and to face in a better way the problems of society and life. Society recognizes the importance of the school for its educational value, but the importance of education is not limited only to the formation of the individual. It has a direct influence too on the economic improvement of the society, in which it is inseparable, or at least it should be, the connection economy, school, work. It is essential at the enhancement of the individual for those who are his potential and his commitment. This Comenius project gives the chance to grow as a European person, and our school doesn't reject all that is considered important for the formation of our students. Devoted to our dear and beloved Grazia, a person who believed in and lived all these values.